Hello, everyone. We're together with the Gauntlet community, and we're playing Monster of the Week, All Are Punished. And this is a adventure for Monster of the Week that's written by Ollie Jeffrey, who is a member of the Gauntlet community, amazing game creator, a brilliant mind, and a wonderful guy. And I'm so excited to be playing this. It comes from the Gauntlet Codex, Codex Hell, which all the codex have marvelous things in them. So if you have not looked at them, you definitely should. They are fantastic. I wanted to start off by saying that All Are Punished is a dark game. It is in the vein of Hellraiser, the movie Hellraiser. It is bloody, and it does have some themes of sexual violence, some themes of incest that are in it. I have spoken with my players to say that, you know, there is a sort of baseline I prefer to not have in a game. I just don't see a use for it in general. I don't have rape, and I don't have on-screen violence to children. We also have in effect the Gauntlet inclusivity policy. So everyone, I believe in what it says for our community and how we're trying to give a safe and open place for everyone. We also have on the table the X card, which, if you're familiar with, feel free to put up like this, something in the chat, say something to me, and we can immediately go back. I might ask, just for a detail to know where I'm going back to. We'll scoot back, and I'll reframe the scene. It is for our use to make the game better. And so if something's like this is just hurting my fun, then we want to get that fixed. So please feel free to use it. Let's see here. Is there anything else I think we should start with? I think that's probably at least most of our intro stuff. So I'm going to start us off by reading a little bit of the All Are Punished, and then we'll go through and see how our characters look and setting up for that. So, All Are Punished. Francis Tillerson was handsome, not quite matinee item handsome, but certainly a returning character in a soap opera handsome. He was charming, he had the most open smile, and he did charity work. He volunteered at least once a month at the soup kitchen that ran out of St. Evelyn's Church, feeding the city's homeless. And when he finished his shift, he would track down whichever of the homeless women he found most attractive that evening, invite them back to his apartment to sleep for the night, and torture and murder them. He was able to operate like this for years because nobody was really looking for missing homeless women. And from 1974 to 1981, it's estimated he murdered more than 50 women and girls. He was eventually arrested when one of his intended victims escaped and identified him to the police, which quickly led to the discovery of human remains in the multiple chest freezers that filled most of his apartment. Despite insurmountable evidence against him, Francis maintained his innocence throughout his trial and during his years on death row so he could mount multiple appeals. It was very important to Francis that he escaped the death penalty. He worked out of the St. Evelyn's soup kitchen because that was the church he'd attended as a child, and though he didn't act like it, he still believed every word he'd heard there. On a cold February morning in 1984, Francis Tillerson was executed by lethal injection. And then, of course, he went to hell. Our game is going to be in 2017. St. Evelyn's is located in a suburb outside of Chicago. There has been on the news and getting some little bit of press that several young ladies have gone missing recently around St. Evelyn's Church. Homeless girls and women, 5, in fact, over the course of just a few weeks. This probably wouldn't have even made the news at all. Homeless people go missing all the time. But the notoriety of the St. Evelyn's murderer has caused this to bring up a few old memories. You have each, for some reason or another, found yourself drawn to St. Evelyn's and Chicago Heights. So I'm going to give a little shot here for Tejas, you to work. So I'll start at the other end and have some folks introducing some characters. You will notice that on the character keeper, and I think everybody has the character keeper, I have already given you 4 experience points, and I have taken you down to 2 luck. So the next experience point you get, that's going to take you up and give you an advancement, and we'll go ahead and, you can put it in right then. My hope is for everybody to have a good shot at getting 2 advancements during the course of the game. Along with that, I've got 2 luck in there. This is a dangerous adventure. It is entirely possible we may see a character get killed during the course of it. I try to avoid taking someone's character when they really care about it, but I want to be open that this is a dangerous one. We have the opportunity, of course, for the other playbooks. If your character goes down, you can grab another. I also may be opening up some specific playbooks for those people when they pass, like we might see the availability of a monstrous, say if someone wants to bring back their character's ghost, or something along those lines. But it is possible that will happen. I will try to make sure it's meaningful and satisfying if I kill anybody. And if it really is something you wish to avoid, save that last luck point. That said, Jim, why don't you give us an introduction to your character? You are muted, sir.
Haha, welcome to the Gauntlet. All right. That's every single game. That's how I start out. All right. So let me see what I got here for. I actually wrote a little bio for my character, who is Molly Flynn, Molly Slugger Flynn. Molly was only 10 years old when her family stopped at the scenic overlook for a lovely little picnic. Unfortunately, that was the day Frances Tillerson stopped to rest on a drive to a new hunting ground. Barry and Susan Flynn were just unlucky, in the wrong place at the wrong time, when an act of God disguised in a human shell descended upon them. Tillerson took his time with Barry, enough that Susan was able to stuff Molly into the picnic cooler and push her over the edge to tumble down the steep bank of the overlook before Tillerson made it to her. Her last memory of her mother's face was the monster looming behind her, a contented smile on his face as he grabbed her by the hair. After a long, painful tumble that left her battered, bruised, concussed, and amnesiac, but alive, wandered dazed down from the culvert and found a squat full of homeless teenagers. They took her in and kept her safe and taught her how to point her rage and confusion at the predators, natural and supernatural, that grazed on the freaks and burnouts and mutants who found themselves down there in the bottoms. By the time she could drive, she'd had run-ins with more kinds of monsters than most veteran hunters, but never managed to track down Tillerson despite the help from her friends. The news of his one-way ride to hell strapped to a gurney with a spike in his arm was bittersweet, to say the least. With him gone, she thought she'd have no purpose. But there's only one thing she knows how to do, and it turns out there's always another monster. She sharpens her dad's notched fireman's axe and cleans her shotgun and gasses up her bike and watches for the next would-be bearer of Tillerman's mantle to rear its lunatic head. She is wronged. She is wronged because she was too small, too weak, too pathetic to do anything in the face of the monstrous evil of Tillerson taking her parents, her family, basically her entire life away from her. And she wasn't even afforded the luxury of, the small mercy of being able to end him with her own hands.
Oh, that's excellent. Can I ask a question? When
Please.
You say you were raised by these sort of street kids down in the culverts.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go to the police immediately after the murder?
No.
Gotcha. So you and probably it was frustrating because at first the police didn't connect Frank to the murder because of your father. Frank almost exclusively killed women and girls. But your poor father had been at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, guesser.
I suspect that maybe he pulled up to the rest stop and maybe saw my mother and then, said, oh, here's a target of opportunity while I'm on my way to the next, the next town and the next homeless shelter, whatever, the next city. And then my father appeared. And so, of course, he had to be dealt with. But
and
yeah.
Probably this, the memory of that, of course, haunting you still in your dreams. And you can hear Frank as he stabs your father. You don't even know what a slut she is, do you? As your father slumped, he moved over to your mother. And as you tumbled down, you could hear him saying, come here, slut. You're going to pay for what you've done, you cheating whore.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that would make you want to hide and not go running right to the police. I also think like the amnesiac thing, I think it took me years to understand like what had happened, and that memory only came back to me in bits and pieces. That's the kind of trauma that I think would make somebody just go into shock. So
excellent.
That all work?
Wonderful. Beautiful background. All right. Patrick, would you like to introduce your character?
Sure. I don't have a speech. But I'm going to be playing Arthur Madsen, the Snoop playbook. So I think he is. I think he's a former EMS ambulance worker who had just been called to the scenes of a lot of inexplicable accidents and homicides and things like that. He'd just seen some weird things that took place in the city, and I think after a while decided that he didn't like the work he was in, started doing some like videos and blogs online about various weird cases that he'd come across, and I think he managed to eventually spin it into like an online YouTube paranormal investigation show. He's trying his hand at doing it full time, which is going. But he does have two people with him, Andy and Scott. Andy is a woman, Andy with an I, and Scott's a man. They run camera and sound. And he has various different equipment for detecting the paranormal, infrared video camera, obviously, electromagnetic field detector, things like that. All scientific stuff, and a very old and battered Ouija set. Scientific approaches. Yeah, I've got what does that feel like, where I can sort of stop whatever's going on and interrupt someone with an unexpected question. We'll fix it in post, where I can study video and recorded stuff and investigate mysteries off of that.
Nice.
And the Mojo Wire, which is that I've found some forums and websites to go to that have some credible, crazy, weird stuff on them, so I can try and hunt down information about random stuff.
Cool. Are you local? Are you from Chicago?
No. I think I'm from the Northeast somewhere, but yeah, I'm out here because these murders started up. It's the history of the area. Like, I'm coming to do a sort of ghost hunter expose.
Gotcha. Matching up the old horrible serial killer, and now we've got this new thing going on.
Mm-hmm. This isn't an old dead cold case. This is something that's happening right now, and if I can just catch the right camera shot of exactly the honestly wrong thing, then it'll make my name.
And just to kind of get it out there, I'm sure it's the legitimate press you work for. But where would you put, say, your reporting on a scale? Is it a little more tabloid, or are you kind of the serious believer information guy?
I mean, I'm totally serious about finding this information and the truth behind these things and getting my own sci-fi show, and
Gotcha. Excellent. Okay. Richard, are you with us? And would you introduce your character, please, sir?
Sure thing. So I am Ben Vince, or Benedict Vince. I'm the expert, and I think Ben Vince is local to Chicago. He is definitely, Chicago's home to a lot of prominent universities, and Ben has been at several of them as a student. And he did, I think, a Bachelor of Engineering, then a master's degree in chemical engineering, but his true love was always English. So he went back and did graduate work in English, was ready to get his PhD, was really into kind of the study of old books, kind of like assembling authoritative editions out of multiple different editions. And was very into occult manuscripts, and came to campus to work with his dissertation director. They were working on a couple of manuscripts together, and came into his dissertation director's office to find his body torn asunder, and spread out across the office, and not really knowing what happened. Ben began to take these manuscripts a little bit more seriously. Left his PhD program without the degree, and moved into his uptown Chicago apartment on the north side, and pretty much has just sort of buried himself in whatever he could get for work, while also trying to understand what really happened to his dissertation director.
All right. How long have you been, since the death of this partner and friend, how long have you been doing this study?
I think it has been just a few years. I feel like, he bounced around a lot. So by the time he was ready to finish his PhD, he was probably already in his early to mid 30s. So he's been 4 or 5 years. So he's on the cusp of 40 right now.
Okay, excellent. And have you encountered the strange during this study? Have you gone out to the field to look at things and encountered it?
Yeah. And I think he's been disappointed in his ability to get folk remedies or folk magic to work. And so he's had to get much more aggressive and serious. He was always sort of counting on like silver or cold iron or something like that to take care of things, and quickly learned that got you killed. So he's had to get way more serious, and has had to start. He had to learn to shoot a gun, something he had never done before in his life, which he now carries with him wherever he can get. He can keep it with him.
Cool. All right. What I think I'm going to do is do our bonds and see how those play out before I put a hook to you for the adventure, because we maybe have a bond that'll bring you in on that. So let's see how that goes. Tejas, how you looking on yours, sir?
I've got my idea, and I think I've just got to finish entering stuff into the character keeper. So Scotty Walker, and I can modify this, by the way, if it's too light in tone, was originally a Mouseketeer. I mean, he's stuck with Scotty because people have been calling him that since he was 5. And so he kind of rose through those ranks. He was, insofar as you would call it, a promising future, had that career path into like boy band / needing to, set yourself apart from your childhood when he hit his 20s, needing to, establish himself in movies, that sort of thing. And, he would have had this whole very celebrity sort of career path if when he turned 20, he hadn't been out drinking. And, he was out with celebrity friends. As far as the cops are concerned, all that was happening was that he had been drinking. But he was running down past a line of traffic in a very fancy car, saw, everybody in the right lane stopped, so decided to zoom around it and they were stopping because a kid was crossing the street. That was sort of the end of things for him. He actually was super charismatic, had a promising career, did everything he could to help out that kid while he was still in the hospital. And then when he finally passed, everything he could to help the family. Although he took a lot of heat at first, his honest to goodness, just total I don't want to say humility. What's the right word? Just regret. Yeah. Really made people kind of feel for him, and he could have had a path back in, but he, at that point, had kind of seen himself in the mirror of that action and couldn't just be some, brainless celebrity kid. And so kind of moved away from it. He always has his celebrity sort of following him. And now, pretty much, again, if he didn't live in the world that we're in, probably would have been very comfortably in the world of nonprofit and charity and doing that sort of thing. But being somebody with some celebrity and some money behind him, deciding to throw himself into that sort of work, he started being presented with questions that, about people's situations, people who needed help, who couldn't explain what was going on to them, couldn't explain what was going on. And, that was not the usual. Mostly he was finding these people by happenstance, but every once in a while, something really weird was happening. And what he really found was that he'd keep running into these same individuals showing up to solve those problems. And so just because of that, he's become sort of like a hunter hanger-on, just somebody that has become aware that this bigger world exists, and has decided, what, I'm somebody who can help, not because, I have special skills or anything else, not because people are going to recognize my face, but because I ought to, because I've got this thing that I need to make up for. And he's probably closing in on his 30s now. Still the type of person recognized at the mall, but he's, his money kind of keeps his organizations funded on their own, leaving him free to start pursuing this weirder stuff, even though people are starting to look at him a little bit askance because,
Cool. I'll say that you set a little light, and then you start off with running over a kid. So I think you're hitting the dark tone pretty good. But all right. So are you living in Chicago, or do you follow around where hunters are kind of
He probably has family in Chicago. It's one of those things where he's probably from a Chicago suburb and originally, but has been living in LA or New York for most of his childhood, and now tends to return home, involved in local community, but mostly through his organizations, not himself. So
Gotcha.
He's here, but because he has sort of a community presence and needs to stop in, not because he's living there.
Gotcha. And it sounds like you do keep your ear to the ground for when something unusual is happening.
Yeah.
And you've met a few hunters over these years. So when you hear something's going on, how do these other hunters feel about you?
It depends on who they are. I imagine that most of them sort of resent me. They see me as a silver spoon. A lot of them probably don't even know that there was a tragedy in the past, because it's all gossip rag stuff that, happened a good 8 years ago.
And she survived. And
right. So, all of that stuff, they just, they see you as just somebody who thinks that their thick wallet is what entitles them to be helping out. But there are a few people who know that he's really earnest, that he's educating himself as best as he can, despite the fact that he has no background in it. And if nothing else, he is somebody who is willing to throw money at a problem if a hunter needs it.
Right, and that makes you, that raises you in most people's opinion when you're willing to write a check. Excellent. Okay, that's super cool. I'm going to, once again, I think I'm going to see how the bonds go before I lay some hooks in, though I can see some definite ways to do that for you. I seem to be skipping a little. If y'all don't, I'm going to adjust my bandwidth just a hair. See if maybe that'll help. That didn't seem to help much at all. All right, let's see how that does. Sorry about that. If I start skipping out or anything, please tell me and I'll figure something out. Okay, so why don't we go through then and do some bonds? I think what I'd like to do, just because of, the shorter time frame, I think I'd like for us just to do one bond, but I'd like there to at least be a bond that someone has with everyone. So let's make sure we can, each person has a connection. And that kind of will save us a little bit of this setup time. And I think it'll also sort of reflect you guys coming together over this problem more than you being like the Scooby crew that always travels together sort of thing. So looking through, I do want to put up a roll for your party because that probably will be helpful for us all. And I have one right here. I'm just very slow at always doing this. So sorry. Oh. There we are. Our awfully relieved Blue Jay. So, why don't we start with, I guess it'd be you, Jim. You can choose whichever of your bonds you wish to pull in. All from out there, see what someone likes, and we'll go down our line. Also, Jim, how many moves do you have?
I've got one too many is what I've got because I'm supposed to pick 3.
Gotcha. Okay.
So let me knock one off of there. I've got, you know what, I was thinking in my head I had 4, but I get a default move is what.
Gotcha.
So let me just zap one here.
Cool. Or you can even like just put an asterisk on it, since if you want it, you're probably going to go up a level fairly soon anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna hold off on worrying about that since we're gonna do
That's fine.
the history here.
Cool.
So sorry, I had my thing flipped up. What do we got here? You saved their life back when they were a pathetic newbie hunter. Let me get to my, where's my list here?
Yeah, anybody feel like that one describes you?
Oh, I think that's definitely our expert back when he wasn't such an expert.
Thank you. I was about to volunteer but couldn't find the unmute button. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
What did I, and then I ask you, what did I save you from?
I think I was going after something that was literally draining life, which I thought would be a much more traditional out of Dracula vampire type thing, but was much more grotesque, dangerous, straight from the gates of hell. And I think when I was having no luck jabbing it repeatedly with a silver dagger, you maybe shot its head off.
Yep. Yeah. I like. Did I teach you how to shoot? I'm totally cool.
Oh with that. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's awesome. Great.
That's super cool. That's very nice. Patrick, would you like to lay out a bond for Arthur?
Let's see. I think this will be for Molly. Molly saved my ass when I did something stupid. And then I ask you, Jim, what did I do that you saved me from?
What did I do? I mean, clearly, like it was there was some kind of critter that was that you wanted to get pictures of, that like you don't take like if you see it you kill it, just some kind of thing like that. Let's say it was like a lake monster, like a lake monster living in the Great Lakes.
Nice.
Just totally like a thing that you would have been all like, I'm going to go out in my bass boat and get some footage of it. And it's like, no, I'm going to chop its head off with an axe is how that's going to go, actually. So does that work for you?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Excellent.
Cool. All right, Richard, why don't you tell us a bond for bid?
All right. I think, sorry, let me make sure I'm getting this right. I think Scotty helped me get a singular item that is now part of my haven. I'm going to tell you what it was, Scotty. A lot of old books, like a box of old books, just sort of showed up on eBay. Most of them were in code. And one of the encoded books, or one of the ciphered books, was actually Martha Washington's Book of Shadows. Tell me if that's too goofy, but I feel like, doing some ancient Book of Shadows, or not ancient, but from like early colonial America, Book of Shadows.
Sounds great.
That I already had a key to, and without Scotty's significant financial assistance, I would not have been able to acquire that.
How's that sound, Scotty?
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I guess the question I'd have then is, what was our, previous relationship that made me willing to do that, and so that I'm not just like throwing that out as a hook. I'm thinking that maybe you are somebody that when I was first coming into things, come here, baby. I needed somebody who could maybe like guide my hand a little bit. Good night. So, because I had no idea what I was doing, and so I maybe came to you, but what did you do then to convince me, hey, this is a legit thing that you just want to wave to people? Okay. You can wave, say good night. Night. Okay. I'll see you later. Bye. Take your bottle. That's Johnny's bottle. Okay. Bye. Have a good night. I love you. Oh, okay. I get to keep it. Thanks. Okay. I'll see you. But yeah, so
I think I showed you some ways that what you had was actually deliberately mistranslated to trick it was not specifically to trick you. It was just to trick readers in general into doing the wrong thing, and to essentially summoning the demon on the wrong side of the circle. And was able to show you some older versions of the manuscript, rework through it with you, and prevent you from unleashing some hellish power.
So ward me off from doing something stupid.
To keep you from unleashing some hellish power into a party in the Chicago Loop.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, so we then have a kind of friendly, a little bit of a mentor-mentee feel a little bit there. That's kind of cool. And so, Tejas, would you like to give us a bond for Scotty?
Yeah. Who does not have one? My windows are kind of small. It's hard to go back and forth.
I think everyone has at least a connection with everyone.
I don't have one pointed at me.
Okay, so
Okay.
it would be going then for Arthur.
Okay. And then the bonds, are these the relationships that under history on the second page?
Yes.
Or are we just coming? Okay. I'm thinking maybe initially we were rivals, maybe before you got into the ghost hunting thing. You were trying to make it as sort of like paparazzi, and so maybe you had kind of, or maybe you were doing that as like a means for cash to allow you to pursue your actual real interests. So for probably my first year of having to deal with you, it was as somebody like always snapping off a camera in my face.
Gotcha.
And so maybe at some point, like I confronted you about, just like intrusion of privacy, something like that. But so what I'm thinking is that maybe in like whatever happened, that sort of like heated argument, as maybe you're somebody who like backs off when suddenly somebody's like finally like snapped, or maybe you were just like giving back and putting your finger in my chest. But I'm thinking something that maybe like fell out of a bag, or something that you didn't want people to see because of its like supernatural links. You were hurrying up and to try and put it away, and because I caught it, it made me start asking you questions that kind of led our relationship in a new direction. So what's the thing, do you think, that like fell out of your bags that could have done that?
So for the most part, he uses like technical and sort of high-tech ghost hunting gear, but the one weird thing he has is a very old, like, stone inlaid into wood Ouija board that's sort of beaten up and knocked on the edges. But yeah, I think that's probably what fell out.
Okay, cool.
That's excellent. I like that. That's a good relationship. All right. I'm going to lay out a couple of hooks and see how we bring ourselves together to get started. I'm going to... Jim, does it feel like with Slugger, once you started hearing these things, what the press is very low-key calling copycat style things, because again, we haven't found a body, but having them disappear, people look for them, has brought up the old stories. Yes, sir.
Yeah, like I think that like one of the things I live for is when some schmuck like reads about him in the in some true crime book and decides that they're going to try and emulate him. And like I cannot imagine that I have not dispatched like half a dozen dudes who thought that they were going to be the next Tillerson. And I think I have just a particular mad on for people who, like, anybody that even looks like they're headed in that direction. So absolutely, this would have me like, I would be, I would definitely be, rolling down from Minneapolis or Milwaukee or wherever it is that I am to, into Chicago to check up on this.
Gotcha. And, considering that, when these copycats come out, early on, was there some part of your mind that they got the wrong guy, or that Frank was still really out there, or did you know this for what it was?
No, I think I know this for what it was. I mean, I think the timeline we've established is I'm in my 40s at this point.
Right, by this point.
Yeah, and like I said, bittersweet to see him, one-way trip to hell on a gurney with a spike in his arm, but definitely that thing that they do where I don't think that I would have been invited, as a victim, whatever, as a family member of a victim to actually witness that. Although
Especially if you didn't go to the police.
Yeah, there was probably a whole room full of people that did. But yeah, no, like that's, but that, yeah, this definitely would bring me running.
Okay, cool. So you're heading down towards Chicago, and we'll have you come riding through, and have you pop up in a moment. We'll see if you want to get in touch with somebody as you get there. Arthur, you, I'm guessing, have heard about this story, and as we've established, you're going to do kind of exactly what Slugger hates: go up there and make equations to this past murder and kind of glorify this copycat in a way.
Glorify, not at all. I am going to find the cold, hard truth of the haunting and ghostly presence that's obviously here. I'm not interested in some mortal copycat. That wouldn't be a good story at all.
That's true. That's true. Seems like there's plenty of opportunity for this terror from making his return from beyond the grave or influencing those who with weak wills or whatever. So you're writing in to find this story. Your producer. Do you have a producer, or you do it all independently?
I do it independently still. Like I'm trying to get something that's good enough to get me an agent and some sort of at least local network deal. But I've got to find a good story for that.
All right. So Andy and Scott, which of them does your investigative stuff, or is it you?
And since we have Tejas with Scotty, I changed it to Andy and Kyle.
Kyle. All right. Write that down. One assumes you've looked over the newspaper reports and everything on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're aware that all of it is in that neighborhood where Frank Tillerson once operated so very long ago, around St. Eustace. Is that right? Yes, St. Evelyn's church, and that it's an old community, mostly immigrants from around the turn of the century, a lot of Italians, a lot of Irish. But you're heading in there. You are, I believe, connected with Scotty, and that's where his home turf is. So we may come around in a moment to you having tried some interconnection between you. But I want to lay a little hook into Ben. With these stories coming out about these murders going on, is it something that you think Ben would be looking into? Is this crossed his path yet as something unusual, or you think it's just kind of an unusual, sad thing that's going on?
I think Ben is at the point where if something could be a pattern, he probably thinks it might be a pattern. I don't want to play him too much like the flaky, but like he's pretty nervous about the whole notion of just any sort of murder patterns in Chicago. Chicago is not a huge murder city, despite recent upswings in gun violence. But serial killers, people who do pattern murders, things that look alike or that seem to be imitating things, is not something that happens every day in Chicago. So I think he's already nervous, and he's already sort of like looking at what he can find out for like how could this be used as a sacrifice, as a ritual killing, as
okay. And your haven, where what part of Chicago is it located in? Is it over here towards Chicago Heights?
It's I can't remember where Chicago Heights is.
Southwest, but I mean it could be anywhere.
I originally said Uptown, but I think that's I can put it in Hyde Park. Okay. Right by the campus. So so
I love Chicago. Yeah. I run a lot of games in Chicago.
Yeah, I lived there for a few years. So Hyde Park, I think, would be a good place.
Close to the university.
Close to the university, you can still get an inexpensive studio.
Excellent.
So I think he's doing the flipping through books, kind of doing the random, like, what do I see? What do I find that sort of reminds me of this? And I'm guessing it doesn't really get anywhere, except back to serial killer, pattern of an old serial killer.
Okay. All right, then. But so it's on your mind already, but you haven't started that footwork or anything, and you've kind of come up stymied on a supernatural level.
Footwork makes me very, very nervous by myself. That's a nerve-wracking thing.
Okay. And so, Scotty, you, amongst all of your work that the organization, your organization does, I guess they're aware, and you've given instructions when unusual things happen to put, kind of slide it up the line towards you.
Yeah, definitely.
Then you probably have done, have helped fund some of the work that's done at St. Evelyn's. They have a very active soup kitchen and homeless shelter they fund. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, we've done like a dinner for a dinner type events. Like I've gone in and like talked to the, people who live at the shelters. And so they come in and they do like a real, black tie, white napkin kind of, $200 a plate kind of meal.
Right.
And so we get like the city's big people putting in money to fund, the kitchens through that, and then kind of put a face on the people that they're helping by that being the wait staff. But I need to facilitate that.
Gotcha. And so it comes to your attention. You get a probably just like an email, but it's someone who's just sending up a rumor. When they pick them up and they know your interest, they send it up to you, where these girls disappearing. All of them have been between the ages of 16 and 20. There have been 5 in this neighborhood, but what they send up to you is one of the girls before she went missing, and she was, the next to last that's gone missing, talked about that she had seen a figure, a woman, but that she was horrific. Her mouth with sharp teeth, blood all around it. She was deathly white and wearing a nun's habit. And that she had seen her out in the alleyways.
Does the email address give me any indication of who may have sent it? Because, I mean, if this is a girl who saw something just before she died, who would know that, she claimed such a thing? You know what I mean?
It does, in fact. It was sent up by Eunice Baptiste, who is a member of the Ladies Auxiliary for St. Eunice. Okay. And she had mentioned it to one of your workers there as they were coming in to help with the thing, and hearing that story had said, "Oh, well, I imagine that's something that Mr. Your last name, I'm sorry, Walker. Mr. Walker would be interested," and they passed it up. But they have her name there as the person who had told you that, or had told them that.
And what was the name of the girl who died, like that Baptiste was telling me about, or it's just like the second most recent victim?
The second most recent victim, and I could tell you her name was Trisha, and they don't know. They don't have a last name. She went by Trisha Black Shadow amongst the kids, but they're still trying to figure out what her real name was, so they could. She was only about 17, a runaway.
Okay. And I haven't yet found this Eunice, correct?
You have just gotten this information.
Okay.
So we will start with you, sir. What would you do with that information?
I'd say before anything else, I'd probably, kind of push myself back, sort of stare at the screen for a little bit, even kind of like, tap at the words that are sort of the details of the description. And, my mind is just kind of saying like, wow, this is a weird thing to know unless you were there. And so, the first thing I do is bring up a couple new browser tabs and start, doing a Google search for Eunice Baptiste, see just like who this lady is. But then while I'm doing that, I probably also like pop out a little, like Hangouts thing and hit up. Oh, I gotta look at names because otherwise I'm gonna forget. I'm gonna hit up Arthur and just shoot him hey,
Oh, okay.
seen something that might interest you, but I need another eye to let me know if this is just hogwash. And I just hit send.
All right. So as you're flipping in on Eunice there, you see, and if you look on our NPC page over on our down at the bottom of our character keeper, you'll first off see a picture of Frank, and you can see Eunice down there. There's some other pictures there as well, but we'll get to those later. And you see Eunice, her name pops up in all sorts of news stories that go on, and has been doing it, talking to reporters there for 30-something years. In fact, she even has a quote where she was talking about Frank Tillerson back when Frank Tillerson was picked up. But reporters seem to love Eunice, who, in her quotes, gives livid details of whatever she's talking about. From how the bake sale at the church, there was a whole kerfuffle over whether she used real lemon zest or lemon extract, to, oh my goodness, I saw him with that gun rob the liquor store. He was terrifying. He looked foreign.
Yeah, so I send a follow-up to Arthur saying, yeah, I definitely need somebody to help me sift some BS. Send.
Arthur, you get this text.
And I'll send him a link to the file of the lady and, BCC him on the email.
And you are just coming into Chicago in your van there, Arthur, as this text comes through.
I think I'll write you back something like, it's funny you should mention it. I'm just getting into town myself.
Oh. And I, text him back. And, like, when I realize he's here, I'll switch over to, like, do a voice chat so I can actually, like, give him a call. And once you pick up, I'm like, hey, you're in town.
I'm in town. Chicago's always a good place for interesting dead people, but I'd heard there were some like copycat murders going on, or maybe something a little darker.
Yeah, well, I saw something about it in the paper, but it's funny that you're talking about that, because, yeah, this Eunice, the person that she's talking to, was one of the victims of the copycat. So, I mean, I don't know. How many people say they see goofy stuff like this? I don't know. It's worth checking out. At least, but I mean, I don't want to be taken for a ride. I figure you've got a better nose for this stuff than me.
And you do want to be careful when interviewing little old church ladies about sensitive demonic matters. Tends to create a little bad PR if you do it wrong.
Hey, I shrug and I say, little old ladies loved my show. I mean, like, not that teen one where I was like the angsty baseball player, but, me as a little kid singing, they eat that stuff up. As soon as they realize it's me, I don't even know why they know me. I think it's because their grandkids watch it on reruns, but...
I find it constantly shocking how many subjects have to do with your childhood show. It's really just amazing.
I can't help it. I was sort of like a Renaissance youth of the 90s. It just, is the way that it went.
Indeed, you're a very big thing.
All right. Let me get you a drink and a burger, and then let's go find this lady if you've got some time. Sounds like it's, right up your alley.
Yeah, we'll check into the hotel and get some of the equipment stowed. Then head over for dinner.
I'll throw you throw you a pin once I know where I'm heading. And with that, I kind of hang up, pick a random burger joint, and fast forward.
Cool. All right, so the two of you have plans for meeting up. I'm going to skip over just a moment to you, Ben. Inside of your haven, I assume you have a great many artifacts, accoutrements of the occult arts, that sort of thing.
Yep, definitely.
You have one that you've picked up over the time that is supposed to, it's a bell, has no clapper, made of black iron. Scrawled into it are prayers. It was said to have at one point been at the church in Salem, and it is rumored to ring when the devil comes. As you're sitting there, you begin to hear a dull, quiet gonging from this bell.
But pick it up and look at it and see if it's vibrating.
As you touch it, it does. You could feel the gong, and as it shakes in your hand, and then it cracks.
The bell cracked?
The bell cracks.
In two, or just let it up the side? Or
just down the side, kind of splitting the verses.
I am gonna try to find my cell phone and see if I have Molly's number, because I want to make sure that somebody else sees this.
All right, and Molly, I'm guessing that since you and Ben are friends, and did you tell him about Frank? Have you told him about your past? Do you know he lives here in Chicago?
I think I don't have a cell phone.
Okay.
Like if that causes too many logistical problems with getting us together, then I can revise that. But I don't see her carrying a cell phone around with her. And if you're okay with this, like it's a thing where you whatever, pull out your iPhone or flip your flip phone, and you realize you don't know how to get in touch with me, but that's when you hear the motorcycle 2 blocks away, roaring around the corner and pulling up outside your place.
I like that.
Yeah, and like big loud, 10, 15-year-old Harley, maintained so that it runs, but it's not, it doesn't have any, it's not custom or anything like that. It's just a street bike that I used to get around. And I kind of whip it in sideways between a couple of cars, throw it back on the kickstand, and just go walking up. Would I have keys to your place?
I don't know about keys, but definitely you have it. I feel like I live in one of those old Chicago on the top of the garage sort of apartments that you sometimes still get in Hyde Park.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. All those old homes.
I call them a Fonzie pad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the other question I have is could you do could you mojo it so that I can just come walking right in when other people can't?
Oh yeah.
I'd
probably forget to lock the door.
because
being super nervous about everything. Also, I know ghosts cannot get in here and monsters can't get in here.
Yeah.
And I forget that people can just walk in.
People are a problem.
Not many people try to walk in.
And so I just come walking in, like, door opens, I come walking in. And for me, you guys want to picture like Frances McDormand, basically, is kind of like in biker gear, haircut short, pulled back in like a ponytail, and like weathered face, all that kind of stuff. 40, but probably looks 50. But like clearly in really good shape. And I come walking in, and I've got my saddlebags from my motorcycle like over my shoulder as I come walking in the door. And I walk in, and I take the saddlebags, and I just I toss them on the futon that's in the front room. And I say, Benny, how many times I gotta fucking tell you to lock that door?
Do you need a drink? Because I need a drink.
And
I put the bell in your hands.
And I look at this, and I look at it, and I don't know what it is, but it's got like prayers and shit scrawled on it and stuff like this. And what is it? Is it like all the way busted in half, or like just cracked like the Liberty Bell?
It's cracked from top to bottom, but it's just a crack running down it one side.
And I look at it, and I say, well, okay, this doesn't look like a good sign.
As you hold it, it seems to be cold, and it almost hurts in your hand. And
this is
yeah,
this got some kind of big whammy on it.
It's supposed to only ring when Satan arrives, and it came from a church in Salem, and
it's Chicago. You must hear it all the time.
Yeah, no, not really.
So,
even in Hyde Park.
Okay, so it was ringing?
Rang, and then it broke. They say it never rang during the entire Salem witch trials.
Yeah, well, that was a bunch of bullshit. Anyways, that was
yeah, exactly.
They just wanted to take all their property. You told me about that.
Yeah,
and I do you hand me a beer?
Yeah. No,
okay.
Actually, I realized I don't have any ice, so I just hand you a warm glass of whiskey.
I don't drink that shit.
Okay, I'll
give me the warm beer. Give me the warm beer.
All right. Right. The beer's cold, but
Oh, okay. And yeah. I take the beer and I turn the bell upside down and I pop the beer into it like a cooler because it's cold. And I snap it, and I'm sipping the beer upside down in the bell as I'm chatting with him.
That's
Benny.
Would you, Slugger, roll me an act under pressure, please?
Sure. Okay, I got my dice here on the roll 20. I set aside a couple for me.
Okay.
We roll those guys. Oh, that's not good. That's a 4 plus. What am I adding to it?
Cool.
Plus cool. My cool is not all that cool. So that's a miss. A big old miss.
All right. As you drink back your drink, it's like a blackness comes over your vision, and it's as though you're traveling, as though there's this kind of hot and cold alternating winds in your face until you see, and if we look on our NPC thing, you see Sister Enopes, the center nun. You see that stone-like face with its very human eyes. And even though the mouth doesn't move, you can hear, "We're coming for you, Frank. You can't run, child." Then you drop out of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Take 1 harm.
Okay. All right. I can do that. Presumably, armor does not help me in any way.
Not in this one.
Yeah. No. I didn't think so. All right. Yeah. And I think I like sprawl out on the floor, and the beer goes flying and everything. And I lay there for a second, and I say, Benny, you got to stop getting this imported stuff.
It's the beer or the bell, because Salem's not imported.
It's a fucking joke, Benny. There's something weird is going on. There's I saw a fucking doll. Nothing ever good happens when there's dolls around, Benny.
And we're going to stop there as the two of you, we have this second. Arthur, we've had Scotty send you over this information. Would you like to go over it? I know you have a move that lets you do some of that.
Well, I would like to go through it. I don't know if is it have a lot of recorded stuff in it, or is it mostly just stories?
We have a local news, actually 2 local news reports where Eunice was interviewed. She tells her story of what that poor innocent little child had been had happened. And we have a couple of op-ed or small stories that the paper's been running about this. And of course, they love Eunice because they're wanting to tie it back into the more salacious story. And Eunice, you see several quotes where she says, "Oh, I knew Tillerson. I knew when I first saw him, something was wrong with that man."
Okay, so I think we have this like cheap, crappy panel van that we've managed to scrounge together enough money for that we're traveling in, and I think Andy's driving, and Kyle's probably working on some piece of equipment. So I think that puts me in the back, and I've got like a laptop out, and I'm looking at those files, and I'm going through various like conspiracy theory sites and ghost hunter sites and sort of like hidden things out there that I know are good sources and can actually turn up some true things now and again, and sort of cross-referencing and trying to figure out what's going on there. And we'll fix it in post to study all of this material and do an investigate off of it, and the Mojo Wire to read all the current news feeds looking for weird and crazy stuff and get a +1 forward.
Excellent. All right, so roll that sharp.
All right, so it gives me a +2 total. Whew, for an 8.
For an 8, well, that's going to give you 1.
So she seems a little hinky. What's being concealed here? What's something I can find out about her, or some lie I can catch her in, or something?
As you're looking through, and you're kind of cycling through various things, you can find quotes going back into the late 60s where Eunice has found a reporter talking about things. She is like a magnet for reporters. And you could see in one old story that's basically you're dredging up out of old files, but it was held because of Frank. There's a picture of her, a TV interview, where she's talking about this wonderful Frank Tillerson is another volunteer we have here in our soup kitchen. A fine young man and a sure sign that more young people should be involved. And we see Frank kind of smiling behind her as he reaches over and puts his arm around her. And as she talks, the reporter's like, "Well, what do you have planned? We have the bazaar, we have the bake sale, da 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 da." And you notice that as they're talking, Frank gets this look in his eyes as he's watching her. And sort of just stares and smiles at her. And something does manage to kind of, and she makes a little motion and kind of shrugs away from his arm and takes the reporter to walk around and see the lovely pound cakes that have been made.
That's not worrying at all.
And so you, looking over this old footage, have managed to pull up to, we're going to call it Beef and More, a fine hamburger joint out here near Chicago Heights. As you pull up, Scotty, why don't you tell us what it looks like when you arrive there? You see your friend and his two companions getting out of their van.
Okay. Beef and More is probably like kind of a little tongue-in-cheek. It's like trying to go for that whole Five Guys vibe, but at the same time, they don't want anybody who can spend less than $20 on a burger walking in. So, like all of the beef is organically sourced, and, they've got, some local farmers like pork skins as, cracklins instead of French fries, and there's going to be like some sort of runny egg on whatever the the special is for the day, that kind of place. At least one of the options is like power greens instead of French fries on the side, and like everybody who's in line is wearing like slacks or jeans that probably cost $150, but I'm probably just pulling up, jump out of my car and just sort of look around, trying to scan, see if you're already in the line as I make my way in and just get in line like everybody else.
He sort of stands a head or so above most of the crowd, so you sort of see him waving from further up in the line as you get in there.
Okay. I'll do the pardon me, excuse me, as I kind of like turn sideways to slide past people, but
so I'll grab your food. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I kind of rub my nose a bit and then say, "So, what do you think about this? I mean, just like these claims of seeing a figure, the thing that seems to me the weirdest is just the fact that, why would, if you're going to say that she saw this right before she died, and can I clarify out of character? That's what you said. It's something that she saw right before she died, or it's something that she...
Yes. Okay.
She
had seen this, according to Eunice, who Eunice is, as far as anyone knows, one of the last people to see her. The day before, she had told her about this person, this creature.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems that, considering that, the truth is out there, and I do my Fox Mulder, and then say, it's at least worth looking into, right?
She is a genuine creepy old woman. You are not wrong. There's something going on there. It's, there's just, you shouldn't build up a resume of these sort of interviews. It sort of feels like maybe she's hiding something. And this is exactly the sort of story that I came here to Chicago looking for. There's something being covered up, something that's been covered up for decades even. Oh, that's good stuff.
Covered up? What do you mean? Like, you think that, what she's saying has something to do with the actual murders, or you think she just, has some insight into this girl?
I don't know what she has insight into. I just know that her name keeps popping up, and that's worth checking out.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you want to do the hard press on her, do you want to be the one talking to her, or do you want me to, try and talk to her as maybe a representative of the organization, and then you can jump out if need be? I don't know. You're the
Again, PR considerations. Let's try not to jump out at old women. It tends to look badly. But you do have a much friendlier face than I tend to.
I give the smile.
See, it's that whole practice thing. It really works on people.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll lead us in a useful direction, because I don't know. This whole murders thing, it all stinks of bad juju. You know what I mean? It's not. The whole serial killer thing seems crazy to me.
Besides, if you're keeping her happily busy, then she won't notice me poking around the church.
All right.
Well, that might be good too. Yep.
So the two of you begin the four of you begin setting off towards St. Eunice after you've finished your very high dollar organic beef burger and side of kale fries.
Oh, I'll expense it for him, and make sure he takes some takeout for his peeps.
Cool. All right. Let's jump back over then to Ben's apartment. Are we picking up right there with you still on the floor, Slugger, or are you sitting in the couch, or y'all had a second for you to collect yourself?
I think we can go to me having had a second to collect myself and
cool.
and explain to Ben exactly what I saw, so that he's up to speed and can be like I'm sitting there, and Ben like where would you go for research on this? I guess is the
I feel like
what the hell did I see?
Ben does not trust. I mean, he uses, but does not really trust the. I feel like he's close enough to campus that he still has, between his account and the proximity to campus, he still is treated almost like an on-campus building for getting access to library databases. But he doesn't trust the library databases, so he's been slowly pilfering the old microfiche and microfilm so that you can see the actual pages stuff was on. Because if they're out there, they can change stuff once it's on the web, once it's in a database. They can't change the old pages. So I think he's going through. First thing he did is make a sketch of what you saw, of what Slugger saw in the vision. And then make sure Slugger sees the actual online and offline articles around the recent imitation of Frank's work, and is then going to start digging back into the films of the papers from before Frank was arrested, and after, going to his normal sources during that time period. He'll start with some digital stuff just to figure out what headlines and what issues he's looking for. But after that, he's going straight for, he wants to make sure he sees the actual page.
You want to know stuff about Tillerson?
Yeah, I want to know stuff about Tillerson.
Okay. I whip open, I feel like I whip open one of my saddlebags, and I have like an old school scrapbook.
Yeah.
Like the kind where you peel the page back and put the newspaper articles in and stuff like that. And I just drop that on the table, bam. And that's got like obituaries of his victims and like all the, stuff and and it ends, and the last, and the first page is the unsolved murder of my parents. And the last page is him getting executed. And like everything else in between is like just stuff about him. And that's certainly not like everything that there is, but like that's like, I lay that down.
Yeah, creepy dolls and murders.
And again, you don't know. Didn't we say that Molly hasn't told you of her own personal connection there? So Molly's coming in loaded for bear, it seems, on this Taylorson thing.
Right. Creepy dolls, murders, and Catholicism.
The doll said his name, right? Sorry, as a player, yes. And like I told you exactly what the doll said.
They're coming for him. Well,
He got out. He got out. I'm telling you, he got out. Somehow he got out. He got out. You know what? This is, if I didn't think that there was a God, but if he's out of hell and walking around in this world, then just maybe there is. Because we're going to find him, and we're going to make sure that there isn't enough left of him for hell to take back.
All right. So no more microfiche. What I want to do is get down the Lipson's cosmology and the chapter on hell. Feel like he was an old Puritan preacher. Probably came out west in the early 19th century. To the Midwest, and want to get a copy of his work on people who've escaped from hell.
All right, why don't we do an investigate a mystery there?
Yeah,
as you're delving through your library of lore and your history books, trying to people who escape from hell and this doll, this thing that seemed to be coming for him.
Sir, right at a 7. Let me check my questions and see if I want to ask one now, if I want to hold.
Okay.
So this is a thing that escapes from hell based on what I was looking for. At this point, not like, just a ghost, but like as a ghost that escaped from hell, what sort of creature is it?
As you're looking through this book, and there are several stories of things that can escape, people who escape from hell. It is said that a tormented spirit can influence the real world from hell, but is truly not escape, for it is in torment. There are stories of people who die and a demonic presence takes control of their body, and so the demonic presence has escaped from hell. But you do see, as you're looking through this, there is said to be those who find a doorway from hell. A certain ritual can call them back, crack open the infernal, and they step out bodily.
I show you the passage, Slugger.
Okay, you read me the passage.
Yeah. And
I've got maybe a 7th or 8th grade reading level, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not illiterate, but it's not. But most of this is going to go by me.
Right. I think the question I'm asking now, that's not necessarily a GM question, but just a question to you, Slugger, is Who the hell would want this guy to come back?
Benny, I put down half a dozen of these demented fucks that worship him. One of them was a 19-year-old girl. That you know, doesn't, there's people that they don't know what they're doing. They don't know. It's or they do and they just don't care. But we gotta you and me, we gotta go to his grave, Benny. We gotta go to his grave. You gotta come with me to his grave, Benny.
Based on what I learned, do I think his grave would actually be significant? That's a question to the GM out of character. Or would they need something physical to get him to bodily step out of hell? Yeah.
He would. Those that come out where the ritual takes place. The breach in hell. So wherever the ritual would have been done would have opened up that door. There are. You see that there has to be some connection, and in fact, blood is what is mentioned. That it requires the blood of the person being brought back, or the blood of his victims, or the blood of his children or family, or it has to be the blood that calls him back. And as you are looking at this and you turn the page, you see a wood print of 3 figures. And on our NPC page, you see the Ultor Sacerdotes. I'm not great with my Latin. Ultor Sacerdotes, as those 3 figures, the Mother Superior Gullah leading them.
Son of a bitch, Benny. That one in the middle, that's her. That's her, Benny.
And these are the sisters who return those who escape hell. And we're gonna take our break, I think, on that little moment, and we'll get back and see how our intrepid investigators at the church are doing. Let's take 5 or 6 minutes. We'll get back at 9:39 or so, and get started again. See y'all in a moment. I like our crew. I like our characters. They're super cool.
If I hadn't had something, or if I hadn't needed something pointing at Arthur, my other thought was to do a love interest pointed at Molly, just because I thought it would be hilarious to have just like a 20-something like ex-Mouseketeer who totally has it in for this older badass lady.
All right, Jim, are you back? I had him there for a moment, but I will give him just a sec. Ah, there we are. Okie doke. So we're going to shift scene over to pulling up. It's mid-afternoon, heading towards evening, probably about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. As you pull up in front of St. Eunice in Chicago Heights, the group there, Scotty and Arthur.
And
yes.
Was it St. Evelyn's? It's Eunice's
St. Evelyn's,
woman, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, St. Evelyn's. I imagine Eunice probably thinks of herself as a saint, but no. It is St. Evelyn. You're right. And as you pull up, you can see that, first off, it's a beautiful old church. It is done in that kind of, in a Gothic style. Says that its first stones were laid in 1897. So it's, of roughly the time of the fire. But that, of course, would have been in Chicago. This would have been some way outskirts at the time of the fire. But it was laid down by Irish Catholics, who were the first group that had moved to this neighborhood. And then the Italians had also moved in. And now we're starting to see some more Latino people who, again, there seems to be this is a Catholic neighborhood, and it's sort of known for that. And St. Evelyn's is this beautiful church that's been here for a very long time and does a lot in the community. And so as you're coming up, you see that there are people going into its kind of activity building off the side. But the church itself has lights on inside, but there isn't anything going on in it. But you see it there. But you see homeless people going in and out of the activity building. And you can see a sign on their little, where they have their notice board out front that they are having a dinner for the homeless this evening.
What did you say the neighborhood itself is like? Is it like more affluent now, or I know that you said like originally
it is but right. The feeling of it is that now it's probably a better neighborhood. Originally, it was more apartment blocks. There aren't as many of those, though there are a few. They have that look of kind of what you'd call the old hotel style apartment buildings. So it's one big stretch up building, and they're usually older in brick. But around it are where people have built nice middle class homes, and this is a middle class, maybe even a little upper middle class neighborhood, a safe place, which is why these murders, back then and now, these disappearances was such a shock and such a, this was a person of the community, and this community doesn't have things like that.
Okay. Would it be too convenient to say that this is the church where I would have gone had I stayed in Chicago, that I have relatives who are still in the congregation?
It's perfectly, we can certainly have that in there, and it could be a reason that you have been willing to give support to this church. It's kind of your mother church, and some family still around here.
Okay. So, Arthur, I look at you and say, I probably, pull my Tesla up into the parking lot, and, and I get out, I click the little button, makes the door close, and, put my hands into my slacks as I slouch up to your panel van, and with no irony whatsoever. So, you ready to go?
I'm stepping out of the van, and pretension really is the price of life with you, isn't it?
You could see a couple, a little group of the church hausfrau that are there, kind of, letting people in and saying goodbye as they leave. They're in their, mid to late 30s. They're all dressed up, nice, perfect little hair. And you see a couple of them. It's Scotty Walker! Scotty Walker!
I kind of, do a little fake hat tip to them and kind of look at you and say, come on. And as I wander up, I'm just here to help on the line, talk to a few people.
And I think before we leave the van, Kyle will come up to you. He'll slip like a recording device in your front pocket there. Just leave that there. Don't mess with it too much. Try not to touch it or rub it or bash it with things or anything.
You act like I've never had a camera and a mic on me before. I give him the smile and then walk off.
Oh.
As you walk up towards the building, the ladies come up and, Mr. Walker, it's so nice to see you back here. You've been such a huge help for the church. Do you mind a selfie?
I say, of course, but I mean, please, it's just Scott. It's fine. I mean,
just Scott.
I mean, my Aunt Mavis, she would not tolerate me giving you any sort of,
a wonderful
Mr.
woman.
Walker. So,
yeah, Aunt Mavis is the definite cue that I need to leave this conversation, or I'm going to do something violent to Scotty. So, I think while he's sort of charming the little old women, and we have Andy and Kyle still there, sort of making a crowd. I'm going to try and slip off into the shadows and see if I can't work my way into the church itself while he's working the meeting here, or the dinner here.
And I think the only thing I'm going to do is I kind of make my way in and sort of talk to them. Is I'm just going to casually mention Eunice, just asking if she's working tonight as well. I had promised to, my aunt made me promise to give something to her, and I kind of, pat my pocket.
One of them rolls her eyes. Of course, Queen Eunice will be here. She's in there holding court like usual. We all have to go and kiss the ring. Sometimes they would think she's the Pope.
I say, well, we all have to know our place. I mean, we do what we can. And sometimes that means just putting on a brave face and smiling when people say to, and nodding when people say to.
You're so wise, well beyond your years, Mr. Scott.
Yeah, and I'll keep doing that while I kind of look over their shoulders to see Arthur walking in.
Okay. As you watch him walk off, they lead you in, and you can see across the room there is Eunice. And there's a crowd in here of probably 30 homeless people, a lot of them young, who are eating, and you could see that they have a line where they have covered dishes. Probably the ladies themselves do them. As you come in, I'm going to shift over to you real quick then, Arthur. Are you going to head to the front door, or are you going to try and work around a side?
Well, there's an event going on in this side building here, so obviously they had to pull some stuff from out of storage, or they had to get something out of the church. So it's coming on nighttime. The front's probably locked up, but there's probably a side entrance that's closer to this second building that is kept open as the old ladies are going back and forth toting things.
All right, so as you head over to it and you enter into, this would be where you have the Sunday school rooms, and it's also got their, the offices would be upstairs from there. But this is, away from the very beautiful sanctuary and the more formal areas. And as you walk in, you see down the hall, kind of straightening his cassock and kind of doing his hair in front of a mirror, is Father Lahane, which you can see his picture. He hasn't quite noticed you yet, but he probably is, you get the impression, preparing to come in and do, press the flesh a moment or two.
Well, I'm gonna hope he doesn't have his hearing aids in right at the moment, and try and keep out of his line of sight and slip into the shadows to let him leave there.
Okay. He will walk by you, and he does not notice. He sort of totters along like a little old man and exits the door. What do you do once he passes? It is quiet, but it is an old church, so there's a constant creaking all around you.
So once he leaves, I pull out. I have a nice digital camera with me, and I also have my EMF detector.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an old church. It's the church in the case. Like, I need some nice establishing shots. We're right here at sunset, so there's actually some really good light for right now, so I can get some nice shots of the church. And I can go ahead and do a sweep with the EMF detector, see if anything like is happening right now. That's obviously not going to be it, but just see if there's any sort of weird readings that I can come back to and check up closer on later.
All right, you begin moving through the church, kind of this area back here, the Sunday school classes, and then up the hall and through the doors into the sanctuary.
Yeah, definitely going to the sanctuary itself.
As you walk in and begin moving around, the readings don't seem any different in particular. But as you spend a few minutes looking around, you head up to where the altar is, and you can see that there is a Bible open to Revelations. And as you are looking about, checking, your EMF detector does begin to fluctuate some.
Oh. I'll definitely make sure to get it up into the camera shot, and I'll start giving a little. Oh, okay. This is not sure what this is. It's probably just an air conditioner or something weird, but there is a little strange reading in this area, so I'm just gonna walk around and see if I can't centralize it. Do a sort of running monologue narration sort of thing as I'm going around.
All right. As you go through talking, speaking, you notice back behind you, now that you've left the altar, the pages of the Bible begin to turn. Not rapidly. They are definitely turning.
Oh, that's a prime shot. Like, I'm definitely turning around, stopping, and getting a nice shot of that.
As you get your shots and begin moving over to it, the pages stop. You hear a slight sliding, like something moving across the paper.
I don't know if, again, we could be dealing with a really specific air conditioner in here, but it seems like something is wanting me to look at this book, so I'm just going to zoom in here on the page, and where has it landed?
As you look, you see where the priest has a pointer, a little slide pointer. It has pointed its way to the shortest of all verses in the Bible. Jesus wept.
I think I definitely do like the tight, dramatic zoom in on the line itself and sort of hold that shot for a moment, just loving the drama of this.
And I'm going to cut back over to Ben and Slugger.
It was my intent. We're going to go to his grave, and I'm trying to manipulate Benny into going with me.
All right. Why don't you roll to manipulate someone?
All right. So we're going to his grave, and that's it. And if you don't come with me, I'm going to go by myself, and I'm probably going to get killed. And then where are you going to be? I am going to roll. So normally you would roll charm for that. But I've got the fervor substitution move. When you manipulate someone, I can roll plus tough instead of plus charm.
Ooh, very nice.
And for my advance that I got when I failed that roll before, because I went from 4 to 5, which is correct, right? That's we like being as soon as we miss, we get an advance, right? I bumped my tough from 2 to 3. That was the move that I took. So let me roll these guys. Ha! Awesome. That's a 2. So even with plus 3, that only gets me to 5.
Oh my. Well,
beautiful.
I
Ben?
pull a map of the Chicago metropolitan area up on my screen, and I say I will be here in this apartment, safe from any ghost that or demons that come out of hell to it, and maybe we should stay here because his grave isn't relevant to this particular case. All right, the grave not relevant to this particular case. Why don't you stay here and help me figure out where the person who opened the rift is, because that rift is what is going to cause, is where he came through.
All right. You're the smart one.
And if you leave me and I leave the apartment, then I'm gonna die.
All right. So is that what you do, Slugger? You
okay? And like I throw my hands up, and but I think maybe I actually look a little relieved. I say, give me another beer, and I'll just have it in a glass this time.
I put the beer in a glass because I have several clean glasses. Because I tend to drink things out of juice glasses.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to refill than to fill up a whole glass.
And y'all going to spend a little time looking over and kind of pouring through these various things?
What I want to do is sort of triangulate where we've seen murder victims since the imitation started.
And I just want to jump in before we get too far along. Because you did something different than what I asked, you get to mark an experience.
Yeah, I just did.
Cool. Awesome. Great. I want to make sure that was out there.
Which does mean that you hit 5.
Yep.
Yeah. But I'm going to need a second to look at that. But I think what we're going to do is kind of see where we've seen murders.
Okay. And then, you also hit 5, I believe.
What's that?
And you would have also hit 5 from your miss.
No, because I missed when I drank my beer before.
Oh, so you'd already hit.
So I'm at 1 now. Yeah.
Okay. Ben, you were saying.
What I want to do is get sort of a map of Chicago up, or the Chicago metro area up, and start putting pins in where we've seen murders, or where we've seen the imitators, the things we thought initially were imitators that I thought were originally ritual killings, and start sketching out sort of like what overlaps with where we knew Frank hung out.
As you're looking over this, first off, there is a tie to St. Evelyn's from every one of these. As you're going back and you're checking in what information was there, all of them disappeared from that neighborhood around St. Evelyn's, which also was primarily Frank's hunting grounds as well. You can look on this map. There is the apartment where the apartment building used to be, where Frank did all of this. It's been torn down, and now there is a strip mall that they placed where that apartment building was.
Slugger, we got two choices. We start at the strip mall or we start at St. Evelyn's. What's your guess? What's your gut say?
You trying to find him, or you trying to find the people that brought him back?
We're trying to find the people who brought him back, because I think they will have a. I mean, I have no way to. I'll tell you, I have no way to find him, except to start with the people who brought him back, to try to reconstruct how he got here and figure out if they've sent him on some mission or if he's just completely out of control.
He's walking around downtown looking for girls, is what he's doing. But
is that strip mall in downtown Chicago Heights?
But these people, but if these people, if they needed blood, if they needed like if what he did was more important to them than him, like if his grave doesn't mean anything, then yeah, I mean, where he did all of this, that seems to me like where we want to start, don't you think?
Yeah. Except all these people disappeared from right around here, and I point to St. Evelyn's.
Well, yeah, that's. I mean, they've got a homeless. They've got a shelter, right? They've got a soup kitchen.
They've got a shelter and a soup kitchen. How far are they from the strip mall?
It's only a couple of blocks away. This was Frank's church.
Right.
Also,
when was the last time you went to church?
And Molly, I'm guessing you're the sort of person who would have gone to his grave before.
I've never been to his grave.
Do you know where it is? Did you check to see?
I know where it is. I've never been there. I've never been there because I know that if I went there, I would probably dig it up and like do something that got me arrested. So I don't go there.
All right. It is the cemetery itself is not. It is the local cemetery for Chicago Heights. It is not like where the church is or where the people are living. Okay. But it is within several miles, not far away.
Benny told me it doesn't matter. I trust Benny because he knows how important this is to me. So I'm not gonna. Benny says it doesn't matter.
All right, and so y'all mount up. Are you riding on Molly's motorcycle there, Ben?
If Molly doesn't mind, I have no car. And
okay.
I definitely the L doesn't go to Chicago Heights. I don't know about the bus system, but if you want me to be there in 2 hours, I can take a bus.
No. I hand him a pair of sunglasses because Illinois requires eye protection, but not a lid. Kick down the like I've got the the foot pegs in the back for a passenger, and come down with the saddlebag. And before we walk out, I say, "Hey, you still got that Glock I gave you?"
I pat the pistol in my waistband.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
Should I be thinking now about special weapons?
I was going to come to kind of that thought.
Because I took the upgrade I took was to the Haven, just that I have a stash of special weapons along with my magical library and my just general information library.
Is there something, because you have your preparedness as well, which would be kind of on the idea that in the moment you could see if you happen to have grabbed it with you or had it in your whatever bag or whatever, or if you have to go back and get it, but with your armory,
Benny, if you got some kind of devil killing mojo, now's the time. Now's time to lay it out on me.
We've been through this before, Slugger. There's no one devil killing mojo. It all depends on what kind of devil you got.
Okay.
Do you would you like me to roll now for special weapon, or do you want me to just roll preparedness or special weapon when we get to the moment?
If you have something that you would like to, if if you go into the closet and you bring out your blah blah, which is your that you want, you can go ahead and roll for a special weapon. If you want to have it be more along the lines of you're carrying a few things in a bag, then we could have you roll the preparedness and pull it out, and then you could roll it for the special weapon then. It depends on how you want to play with it.
Let's do this now, because I think
Okay.
I'm looking for those bullets that my mentor, the Reverend Dr. Peter Helgeson,
Okay.
had in his go bag under his desk that the police never found, but I did.
Alrighty then, roll for it.
That is a 7. So there's not many of those bullets left, I don't think. Based on
that's a mid range. What does it give
yeah,
you?
it says like I have it, but just the minimum.
Okay, so it would be like, what do we say, 4 for your gun? Something along those lines, the last 4 you have?
Yeah.
Not even a full clip. Oh, man.
Well, enough for a revolver. I hand you the clip.
Okay.
Way better shot than I am.
Okay. And I'm holding the clip, and I'm like, you're the, unless you're gonna give me the pistol, no. I'm and like you hand me the clip, and I shake my head, and I'm like, no, you need this, because if something gets past me, you better have this.
I slipped the clip into the handgun, put it on the safety, and put it back into my waistband.
All right. And so y'all roar out across the city.
Pull my 5 years super dated like flannel shirt down over my blue jeans.
Excellent. And y'all start roaring through as we're going to jump over to Scotty. Scotty, you've had, some people paying attention, and as you're kind of moving through, the lady who met you at the door is heading you over towards Eunice, since you had said you needed to say hi to her.
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably disengage with them with sort of a, I know that my aunts put you up to this. I mean, people my age don't even care. And, did we...
I think we lost each other for a second.
Yeah.
Is it still there?
Looks like Tyler's gone and Patrick's gone.
Jim, are you still there?
I'm still here. I can hear you guys.
Okay.
Oh.
Hello?
Back.
Hello.
Hello. All right.
That's an odd little thing.
That was odd.
Hilarious.
Creepy. I hope it didn't screw with the broadcast if Patrick and I dropped, but I didn't actually drop off. I could hear y'all the whole time.
Oh, okay. Crazy.
But Patrick and I are on the same internet, so it could be some sort of oddness there.
It says live, so we should still be good.
Yeah, we should still be solid. Alrighty.
Anyway.
But Scott,
But
what you doing?
I'll walk up and just sort of do the Mrs. Baptiste, you need me online somewhere? And, just like kind of start doing some work and wait to kind of start being able to have some conversation.
She says, Scotty, it's so good to see you. Oh, so nice you've come back and come to say hey to old Eunice. Oh, are you going to hell? And you see that they're, she's at kind of the head of the line, so that everybody going through has to pass by her.
All right.
And there's a couple of young ladies that are behind the table. There's another one of the, mid-50s ladies. It seems like she's sort of supervising. And you can see behind them, there's the little kitchen setup they have where there's some more people putting stuff together to bring out. You get the impression that this is tail-ending the dinner. Most people have gone through. She says, why don't you come over here? You are such a sweet boy to come and help us, and I'm sure the ladies would love a little assistance, putting things away. But I'm sure also that these fine people out here are little unfortunates. They would love to meet a big star. Maybe you should just go and speak, shake a few hands.
I mean, I can do that if that's what you think would be the most helpful. But I mean, if you want a big star, I'd have to call somebody.
Well, you've just been such a marvelous example since your little problem.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's probably the first thing that's really sort of like shaken him all evening. And I say, yeah, it's a rough memory, and I think it's partly what brought me out. I understand that one of the recent victims from that stuff in the news actually like came through here. It made me feel like I needed to stop back by home.
It's like it's happening all over again. I was here when it first happened. That terrible Tillerson man. I knew the moment I saw him. This is a man with demons in his soul. And I tried to warn people, but no one listened to Eunice. No one. And now it just seems like it's happening all over again. 5 girls. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I know. And I mean, it just seems like such a horrible thing. And then I kind of like look at her and kind of like focus all of my attention on her, and I say, but Mrs. Baptiste, it seems like maybe you had a pretty strong connection with one of them. Somebody told me that you knew this. I'm gonna have to look real quick. I'm sorry. Was it Sandra? No.
Trisha.
Trisha. Trisha, she actually like came through here. You said that like she'd actually like talked to you about seeing stuff. I mean, was she mentally all there? What was the deal?
She leans in close to you. Well, I'll tell you. I mean, look at them. All sorts of drugs they get hooptied up on. I find that this younger generation, the things they do to the temple of their body. But Trisha had always seemed like such a sweet girl. She had parents that just treated her terrible. They say she was one of the lesbians. And her parents they didn't have anything to do with her. I mean, I can't imagine throwing my own child out of the house. But they were Russians. Oh, they're moving in everywhere, these Russians. Oh, just terrible people. Orthodox.
I say, oh, the Mother Church takes in everybody. I mean, you don't see that many blacks or that many Koreans, and here's my family. So what are you going to do?
It was just such a shame that she's gone. She had even been trying to improve herself so much. We had helped her with trying to finish her schooling, and she was here, every night. That's why I knew something was wrong. And now gone for, over a week.
Well, she fallen with a bad crowd. I mean, like, you said that you knew her parents, but no one in the news seems to know her last name. They said her last name's Black Shadow. I mean, what's that all about?
That's what she called herself. And she wouldn't tell me exactly where she was from. I think from somewhere down south. But she told me about her parents. Terrible people. Terrible.
And I kind of pull her aside a little bit. I know this is maybe a little gossipy, but I think I saw somewhere that she was saying all sorts of spooky, crazy stuff about seeing things. I don't know.
She said that she had seen this nun. A nun, can you imagine? Her face was all white, and she had fangs, she said, and blood all around her mouth. She said that she saw her in an alley, that she was just watching her, and that she was so terrifying that she turned and ran away.
She told this to you?
She did. She told me it couldn't have been more than a night before she disappeared. I probably was the last person to see her, other than whoever did this.
Do you know where this alley was? I mean, like, it can't have been like what she says it was, but she's got to have seen somebody who scared her.
It was over near that Chinese laundry, over off of 3rd. She said that she was, I told the police this. She said she'd heard someone following her. She turned down this alley and then saw this thing. The police said that they looked at the security cameras and that they didn't see anybody else go into that alley. But they did see her come out, running.
Well, Mrs. Baptiste, why did she talk to you about it? I mean, like, anybody who's got a last name like that, they want to be seen a certain way. I mean, just looking around at some of the crowd, she's got to have some friends here.
Well, I know that she used to associate with the... Oh, where is she? Sorry, I'm having to check my notes real quick. Oh, fudge. There we are. Shelley Ford. She's another one of those, type of girls. A sweet one, though. She's usually around here.
Well, maybe I'll see if, she needs to just let out some stress. Maybe I'll see if I can track her down. I'm sure it's been hardest on her friends, but I don't know. I mean, why did she confide in you? I mean, did she think something was coming? Did you just happen to be here? What?
Well,
and basically, I'm, to kind of bust out of it, I'm trying to, specifically get her, manipulate someone to try and either admit that she had, too close of a relationship, or she badgered this out of her, or she had some insight. Basically, I want her to admit that either she had something close, or just to be completely glassy-eyed, I don't know what you're talking about.
Alrighty, why don't you roll a charm then and see what reaction you get out of her.
Okay. 7 + 2 is 9.
All right. She goes, well, everyone talks to me. I like to hear a story. And, since the others had disappeared before, when she thought she was being followed, she came back here in quite a state. All of the girls, and she points at the girls behind the line, feeding folks, all of us, we just came around her and told her, that, it seemed like something was out there, and I didn't mean to scare her or anything. I hope that isn't, I hope I didn't do anything wrong, but a girl should be afraid.
Wait, what do you mean you didn't mean to scare her? What did you say?
Well, I told her about Tillerson, and, there have always been rumors around the Heights that that his spirit still walked amongst the alleys. I didn't mean to frighten her.
What you mean with this copycat out there? You told her some stuff like that? You're going to scare them? Oh, gosh, I was about to say scare the poor girl to death. I'm sorry, this whole thing is kind of stressing me out. And I'll kind of go on like that, maybe even try and rope a few in, start looking around to see if I see this, what did you say her name? Shelley?
Shelley.
See if I can find an eye out for her and kind of repeat the name kind of toward the microphone just to make sure they got it, and then start trying to make eye contact for Arthur.
All right, and as you're doing that and talking to folks, the priest has come in and he's saying words to the folks there, and you're kind of circling around. And I'm going to pop back over to you, Arthur, as you've gotten this shot looking down at this Bible.
So yeah, I think I'm zooming back out, and it's sort of through, definitely just looking at the world through the digital screen there, but zooming back out and saying, now, folks, I know some of you won't believe me, you never believe me, but I have not been in this place before. I've never been here before. I've been to Chicago, but not this neighborhood, and I certainly didn't put that like that.
As you're saying this, kind of materializing out of the darkness at the back of the choir nook, we see the image of a nun. She's older. We see her step forward into the light, kind of behind you, and go, "What are you doing here, young man?"
I'll spin on my heels and turn and point the camera at her and face her.
Young man, please.
What are you doing in here? The church is. Who are you?
I am Sister Angelina, and I am the one who's asking you, what are you doing here? Are you part of the press?
Oh, no. And I snap the camera closed, and the light sort of goes off as I put it down at my side. And say, no, just my family my family grew up in Chicago. Always went to St. Evelyn's, they said, and if I ever got back in town, I was supposed to come by, and check out the old neighborhood. They said the church was always beautiful inside, and I just wanted to get some shots to take back to my poor grandmother. She doesn't do so well these days, and something like this would really hearten her, I think.
She gives you kind of a suspicious look. Well, the church is not open at the moment. Perhaps you would like to come back during the day. We do tours.
I'm sorry, there were just all those lights next door, and then the door was open. I thought maybe you were still open for it's just the light in here with the setting sun. It was too much to pass up.
She looks up. It is almost divine, isn't it?
It's you really get a feeling in this place, like there's something out there with a hand in things.
Yes, this is a place touched. Our church is very dear to us. It is nice to see that your family remembers it so well.
They always mention the church. It was so charitable here. You have so much work with the homeless and
we always
with the
have
community.
Yes, we always have. It's been a major function of our church since its very inception. Our kindness to the poor.
Do you have these sort of meetings often?
Every night.
Every night. Wow.
Yes, we feed dozens every night. It's a shame. It's not as bad though as it was. Oh goodness, 10 years ago was so many people having lost their jobs, and then the 80s. Oh, the 80s. Oh, the music. Ugh. And then of course there were the troubles 35 years ago.
You mean the troubles?
Yes, it was a difficult time in Chicago.
Oh, my family still talks about it. They sort of whisper. They don't like to talk about what happened much.
We need more police presence. That's the problem. Druggies and people with ill intent. Wolves amongst our flock.
It's funny that you mentioned that incident. I've been saw stories since I got into town here in the local newspaper. There's been girls that disappeared. I mean, like, sort of like just like back then, everything comes around again. It's sad that the sort of those troubles would happen in this area again.
Why anyone would want to imitate that terrible man? Why anyone would? It is said that anyone can receive forgiveness, that the Lord is infinite in his love. But if there is anyone who was beyond redemption, it was Francis Tillerson.
I the camera at my side has sort of like light off but turned back up and sort of started recording again as she started being interesting and not just a scary nun.
I never understood people that would put flowers on his grave. He's lucky to have been allowed on holy ground in the first place. Or that, yeah.
You sound like you knew Tillerson personally.
I was here. I was but a novice. This is the only church I've known. I think back, I was not much older than those girls. What he did. And then that Pierce girl. How could anyone say they love a man like that?
It's a gruesome story.
I suppose that it's not right for me to wish such torments on any soul. But Frank Tillerson is in hell where he belongs. That I'm sure. And I have no idea what happened with that Rona Pierce. But they say they allowed them to get married while he was in jail. It's a travesty. It's a blasphemy that he could receive such a sacrament.
Yeah.
Why anyone would want to be like it, I don't understand.
I have to say I envy you that surety of the place and the order of things. I live with way too much doubt for that sort of peace, but I'm glad that it brings you some, sister. I'm sorry to have invaded your space here. I'll just go out the way I came. You have a lovely evening.
Come back during the day. Take the tour. The father would love to see you, I'm sure.
I'm sure, yes.
And she will take you to the front door and open it for you. As you walk out, a motorcycle with two people on it comes roaring up to the front of the church. I'm pretty sure that you, Molly, you recognize Arthur come stepping out of the church there.
Yep.
I stiffen in the doorway with just an oh shit look on my face.
Oh, Artie, you fucking muckraker. You've been, yeah. You know what? This is good. This is good that you're here because you've probably already talked to every person.
Molly, it's great to see you. This is the sister, the nun here at St. Evelyn's that I was just talking to about the lovely history of this church and probably doesn't appreciate the sort of noise and language that you're bringing to the area right now.
You know what? You know what, Artie? She doesn't appreciate it. Well, tell me. I've been around a few nuns. They're not shy about stuff like that.
She sort of smiles.
And I say, sister, how do you know my friend Artie here?
He came to take a look at the church. His family is from here.
Yes, I was just telling her about how my family told me when I was in town I needed to look in on the old church in the old neighborhood and really get a sense for our history and where we come from.
And I roll my eyes and just look at Ben like, can you believe this guy?
I think Ben is zeroed in on the nun. Like, oh, this may be easier than we thought.
She seems to have that sort of, she takes the compliment of nuns being tough from Molly there, and she says, like I say, come back during the day, and young lady, well, I guess you're not young. She
I may be compared to her.
You are compared to her.
I'm totally good on that.
Yeah, young lady, you should probably come to services. It would do you good.
Listen to the nun, Molly. She knows her stuff.
Molly lives in the city, so it'd be a long drive out for her. But we do have a question for you, sister.
Of course, sir.
So I'm a private investigator.
Oh, are you looking into the girls?
I reach out towards her hand, but without touching her hand, and say, I am looking towards Molly specifically has expressed concern and thought we should look into this. We're especially worried not only about but also about any relatives of Mr. Tillerson. We feel like an imitator may want to do something cruel and unfortunate.
As I was telling this young man, the thought that someone would do that is horrible.
It is horrible. But I really need to... We have to think about the potential victims going forward. Not only those who've been hurt and harmed, but also those who might be harmed in the future that we could do something about. And
well, since the police seem to be doing so little, I'm glad that, well, perhaps you can find something out. For family, no, his mother was still alive, but the tragedy of it all, she died before even he did. Heart attack, but I say broken heart. His father had died some years before. He had no brothers or sisters, and I don't know of any of the other of the family that lived around here, even if there were any.
Is it possible that he had children?
I can't imagine. Surely not.
Did he have was someone he was very close to?
She looks back over at you, Arthur, and it's hearsay, I suppose. Well, it's true. I heard it through a nun, a sister like me. She knew a priest in that prison.
A chaplain.
Gave that terrible man the sacrament of marriage. Rhoda Pierce, that was her name.
Rhoda Pierce?
Yes. Shouldn't have been allowed in there in the first place. It's absolutely appalling that it happened. Of course, she disappeared after his death, though I hear she wrote to the governor even saying he was innocent.
During this whole conversation, I've been working my way sort of step by step back so that I could get a wider, cleaner shot on what's going on. And it's sort of gotten dark enough, and I don't have a great low light camera, so that street light way over there is not going to do a lot of good. So it's not perfect, but at least it'll look interesting. I'm going to switch over to the infrared camera, just so we can get a clearer shot of what's going on here.
All right. Would you like to say, let's probably read a bad situation?
Sure. This is just a calm conversation on the steps. I don't see what the bad situation could be. But if you say so, I'll be happy to roll a 5.
Oh. All right. Well, you will get an XP.
Hey!
But along with that, as you're scanning around here, you notice that a young lady, and you'll see She's our girl in the picture there, Sally, wasn't it? Yeah, Shelley. Shelley Ford has sort of wormed her way over and is listening to you guys. And she kind of catches your attention as definitely eavesdropping on you. As Ben, do you say anything more to her after she tells you that, or Slugger?
I say, sister, this woman he married, you know where she used to live?
Well, I don't, but I imagine Father Laren does.
Where is he right now?
He's in giving a sermon to the poor unfortunates.
Okay. I say, and I kind of give her one of these, like a cursory kind of, little one of these, and I'm just walking right in.
She looks over towards you, Ben. Your friend is very determined.
Oh, Slugger, she's a go-getter. She is she's a go-getter. And I sort of watched Slugger enter the church because I study Puritan demonology and cosmology, not Roman Catholic. So I kind of slide along after. Let me keep an eye on her.
All right, just and she kind of is pointing back to where there's the walk down to go into that side building. And so as y'all pass through, are you following as well, Arthur?
Yeah.
All right. She goes, oh, well, I guess you know the way. As you're heading that way, though, that young lady comes up to you
and I've got and I make a quick detour, but just quick detour to my bike to grab a backpack that I sling over one shoulder to go walking in.
Okay. You and Ben begin heading over there as the young girl comes up to you, Arthur, and kind of, excuse me?
Yes, ma'am?
Did I hear you're looking for the girls that are missing? And the nun has followed the other two and is kind of showing them how to get over there to the father. So you have this little girl to yourself. She's about 16, 17.
Yeah, I didn't want to worry the nice nun, but I'm doing a piece for my channel online, trying to look into the truth behind these disappearances.
Well, I think my girlfriend's missing.
For how long?
She didn't come home last night. And so I went kind of looking for her. And, well, I saw her. She was at a bar, the Lipstick Jungle. And, well, she was with another lady. I couldn't see her except she had dark hair.
Okay,
and I thought that bitch
that's
cheating on me.
That's not exactly my sort of investigations. I mean, I know some people. I could get you the number of, but that's not the sort of things that I look into exactly.
That's not it, mister. I stormed back home, and I called her, and she answered the phone, and I was like, you bitch, I can't believe you're cheating on me. And she told me no, that wasn't it, that it was a lady from the church who was getting her a job, and she would be right home. She never
Out
came
at a bar.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, she wouldn't lie to me, and she won't answer her phone now, and she hasn't come back, and I went well, after she didn't come back, I went by there and I found this. And she holds up this, it's a billfold / phone case.
Mm-hmm.
It's her phone. It was in the alley. And there's no way she would have, lost her phone. She like lived on the phone.
Did she say something about this church in particular?
Well, it's St. Evelyn's.
That's where she said the woman that she met was from.
Yeah. She said that it was somebody that helps out folks here, and thought she could get her a job. And she's a whiz with computers. It was going to be a big help.
Well, look, I still think you're better off with the police, although, I mean, it hasn't been long enough for them to take a case yet, but it has just been a day, or with some sort of, sort of private investigator to look into your relation. But no, okay, fine. Look, let me get your number and like a description, or do you have a picture of her? What's her name?
Becca. Becca Smart. And she will hold up a picture for you. I'll put one of those in somewhere later, but if someone wants to write her name down in there. You see a woman a young woman, probably 20. She's pretty. And unlike little Shelly here, she's got a little leather to her, but she's not the full punked out. Says, thanks, mister. I can't give you a lot of money, but
well, like I said, this isn't really my job, so I can't promise you much, but I'll keep an eye out, and if I hear anything weird, I'll look into it and let you know.
Here's and she pulls out her phone and will give you her phone number. Just let me know if you hear anything. I mean, well, with all that's going on, I'm just really scared for her. And Trish was, well, she was like a sister to us too.
You knew Trisha, I can't remember her last name.
Black Shadow's what
Black Shadow.
Yeah, well, Trisha Murray.
Yeah. Well, I think Black Shadow's a bit of an overcorrection, but I see the impulse.
When she took off, Becca and I were like, well, she probably just found some guy and rode off with him. But now I don't know.
Look, I'll let you know if I see anything.
Thanks, mister. She heads off. Scott, you're in there, kind of meeting folks as the priest comes in, and he'll come over to you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Walker, my son, your generosity has been so much help to the church. It's so nice to see you down here, so I can thank you personally.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Father Lehane. Whatever I can do.
Yeah, it's hard times here at the church. These disappearances. Yeah, the police need to be doing more. If you've heard about this white slavery and human trafficking that goes on, pretty young girls shouldn't be walking the streets like this.
Why did you hear that people have been taken? I mean, I know that there were the people who've gone missing, but...
Well, what else could it be? I mean, obviously it's some sort of horrible, nefarious pimp syndicate.
That may well be true. I hope that it's nothing more insidious, because if that's the case, then maybe we can get them back.
What could be more insidious than that, Mr. Walker?
If they've actually been killed, I'd imagine.
I suppose that might be worse. The look on his face almost says he's not sure if it's worse to be killed rather than put out to prostitution.
But I shrug and say, I don't know. I mean, like, some of the girls that have gone missing, I was hearing that they've stopped in here to get dinners. Did you? And I'm sorry, out of character, I think I kind of lost track. I was kind of focused more on Shelley Ford. Did I actually think that somebody else has something that they want out of him? So I'm probably talking to him if somebody else wants to come in on the scene.
Sounds like a nice idea. Probably have Slugger and Ben come walking in. You're muted, Jim.
Nope. Okay. So yeah, I'm walking with purpose. I cruise right in. There's the little thing like by the door, because it's a Catholic church that you can, like, the holy water, you can dip your hand in and, you know, and kind of do that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like and I do it like reflexively, like it's a habit. And I kind of do that. And so is it just are there other folks here, or is it just the father talking to Scott?
The father and Scott are kind of off to themselves. There's still, about 24 people eating. We see the ladies on the line are finishing up and kind of pulling things back. And you see Eunice sitting over there.
Okay. So I don't have any reason to know who Eunice is, right?
Not really, okay, unless you remember her from your childhood.
No, I'm not from Chicago, so okay. So I go just like walk right up to the priest, but like stay a couple of steps back, and kind of like till their conversation looks like it's done. Okay. I'm not going to barge in and grab him or anything like that, but I'm like standing there. Clearly, I'm like waiting my turn to talk.
Well, do I know Molly? Seeing as I know Ben and
I'm not sure about that, but you definitely know Ben standing there. Right, Ben, right. You definitely know Scott.
Right. So
Ben walks in very slowly because he's very aware of the gun tucked into his waistband. And
and you also know that the duffel bag that Molly has over her shoulder has an axe and a shotgun in it.
That doesn't make me nearly as uncomfortable as the notion
as the fact that you're carrying a gun. Yeah, that's actually awesome.
I'm carrying a gun inside a private building, which is also a church.
Oh yeah, that's like totally illegal in Chicago, isn't it? They don't really you really don't they don't allow handguns at all.
And I think Ben is waspy enough that it's just also more than it being illegal, it's incredibly socially awkward.
Okay.
It's just like the level of guilt that just sort of hit him as soon as he realized he was doing it.
So, Scotty, are you cool with the idea that we know of each other but haven't actually met before?
That's fine. I mean, if I wouldn't know your face or recognize you, but once somebody says your name, maybe.
Yeah, I can't. I cannot imagine that Artie doesn't have reels and reels of footage of me.
Mm-hmm.
That seems that seems like a thing. And I know you because everybody knows your story. And the fact that Benny, are you okay with that, or do you prefer that we've met each other and
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I probably see you, and it takes me a moment. I'm more focused on the fact that I see you walk up. I don't think much of it, but then a moment later, just kind of behind you, I see Ben walking up, and I kind of do the double take. and I'll, kind of, say my thing with Father Lehane, and then I kind of see Ben. I kind of hold up a hesitant hand and say, "Ben, what are you doing here?" And then, like, as I say that, suddenly I look at you and kind of do that official sort of like recognition, and probably like manage an O by the time Ben starts talking.
Just come up and pat you on the back and look at Slugger like, come on, over.
Okay.
You must be Father Lehane.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, let me do introductions. Father, this is my friend Ben, and I look at you, and Molly, right? Do I have that right?
Oh my God. You're Scotty Walker. You're Scotty Walker.
And I kind of, yeah.
And he told me he knew you, but I didn't believe him.
Scott, yes.
I look at you like, why is that a deal?
The priest. Yeah, go ahead.
Why is this a deal? I'm like, why does everybody think it's a big deal that I know a guy named Scotty Walker? Is it because it's also the name of the governor of Wisconsin?
No, because it's Scotty Walker. Girl, I heard you say, Scotty Walker.
Like,
and it's just like,
probably my color comes up a
after
little
the
bit.
governor of Wisconsin.
The priest has, he's got this big, proud, almost, paternal look when you're, complimenting Scott there, and he says, "Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, both of you. Any friend of Mr. Walker's is a friend of our church."
Are you guys here on business?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were speaking to the nun outside.
Yeah, we're
I
here.
say, Father, let's get a little bit of punch before they put it away. I say, and kind of put a hand on his shoulder to just take this entire discussion away from the, general, population of eaters.
As y'all move off to where you have a bit of privacy.
And I'll look at you guys and say, I don't know. Have you guys seen Arthur around anywhere?
Yeah, he was outside.
Okay, yeah, I came in with him. We're checking out some.
He's shooting what does he call it? B-roll? Is that what he calls it?
And as you're coming through, Arthur goes, I'm guessing you followed after speaking to this girl.
Actually, I think I'd head out to the van to stow some of the equipment and maybe change out for some things and put the EMF detector away. It's expensive.
All right, and you're seeing people are leaving now. It's the end of this thing, and you guys inside, as you're getting more private, they've cleared the table away, and the father's more than happy to speak with you. You see Eunice is getting up, and she's heading out, the kind of lady in charge of the lines, helping her walk out. And you see the two girls that were there starting to leave, and they pass on through, and you see them going over and talking to the people, the homeless and the folks, as they walk out with them. And you have this priest there for a moment then.
I just say to them, let me touch base with you guys. I feel like you're actually here to talk with him, not with me. But when you're done, I want to catch Artie in the parking lot real quick, and I'm looking for somebody else too. I'll be right back. And then I'll, just for a moment, because she had that reaction, I start to turn away, and then I stop and I look at Molly and I say, and it's really nice to meet you, finally. And I stick out a hand to shake hers.
And I just laugh, like the kind of laugh that I don't think Benny has ever heard me. like I sound like a teenager, just for a second. and I like crushing grip, like one pump up and down, like a biker handshake.
Right. I
yeah.
shake your hand,
Yeah.
firmly, actually, when I realize
Oh,
that
yeah.
you have one. And I'll say, Crystal Falls, I was in awe, and immediately that means like one of your hunts, like
Yeah.
that Artie's told me about. I'll say,
Um,
I'd love to ask you about it, but let me get outside. But I definitely I want to talk to you after this.
and I say, yeah, that's not a conversation we want to have here.
No doubt. And I'll
You
make
head
my
out.
exit.
All right. Ben and Molly.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the two of you have this priest here. We're hitting about our end time. So why don't we do a tiny bit of meta out of this so I can know we have our conversation with our priest. What are you trying to find out?
I think the thing most important to me to find out is, does Francis Tillerman have other relatives besides Rona Pierce?
Why don't you roll me a manipulate to see what you get out of this, gentleman?
Oh, that'll go well.
And I suppose you have the opportunity to help out if needed there, Molly.
Does this count as, because I've got for my wrong thing, I've got I know my prey. You get +1 ongoing when knowingly investigating, pursuing, or fighting the breed of monster that caused your loss. Does that give me a bump on the roll to help him?
Yes, it will.
We're doing that? All right, cool.
Yes, it will.
So that puts me at even Steven.
I got just at a 9.
Ooh.
I'm going to roll to help.
Let's see what we get.
There is an 8 to help. So the 7 and 9 that I give you bumps you to a 10, but it also exposes me to some kind of cost, which seems like completely appropriate given who I am and given who you are.
All right. So as you're talking to him and you're trying to get this information out, he's a little reticent to kind of tell you everything he knows, but you eventually get enough trust in with him that he tells you that. Yes, sir.
So, like, I think the 7 and 9 is when he starts to get cagey. I like jab a finger in his chest and say, you helped the monster that killed my parents, and you're going to tell us everything you know about him, or it's going to go, or I'm going to get really, really angry.
You see his face go, I did nothing to help that man. I didn't know if I'd ever even guessed that he was here preying on these children, on these women. I would never help such a monster. Madam, he had no other family. His poor mother, it killed her to find out what had occurred. And
oh yeah, what a shame. His last victim. Even in jail, he was killing women.
Reverend Lehane. Father Lehane.
I chuckle at the wasp slip there.
Father Lehane. It's not a pleasant thing. But the most important thing is that nothing else happened to anyone else. And anybody who's a blood relative of his could be targeted. And by the way, I introduced myself as a University of Chicago researcher, just as generic and broad as possible.
Okay.
Anybody else who could possibly be targeted, we need to identify this person so that we can We can intervene before
Rona,
this imitator.
Rona Pierce believed he was innocent all the way through. She moved around the neighborhood trying to find evidence of it. She loved him, or so she thought. She even married him, which should
Father,
never have happened. But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
in the end, she found out. He told her that he did it all. She came and confessed her sins right to me. She said
Father,
he wanted her to do something blasphemous. Said he didn't want to be in hell. I told her, do not listen to his whispers. Be done with him. And she cried. And she held her stomach and says, I will never be done with him. It's the last time I saw her.
Father, were they ever permitted to, excuse the insensitive term, I believe the phrase is conjugal visit?
Yes. Somehow she convinced the guards to allow this. It should never have happened. It was illegal.
Father, when was the last time you heard from Miss Strange? Miss Pierce?
Last time she spoke to me was in confession. But for years after, she would send a check at Easter. She was living, well, just on the north side.
Inside or outside the city limits?
Inside the city limits. I could give you her address, and he'll write something down for you. I never forgot it. She hasn't sent much in the last, 4 or 5 years. But she must be getting, she's got to be in her 60s. I maybe even 70. I don't know if she's still alive.
So she was an older woman when...
She was in her 30s, maybe near 40.
So this would have been her last chance to... Yes, all right.
I'm sorry, she kind of gives a glare over towards Molly as he kind of pulls you off to the side. The last of the people are leaving, and they chunk, chunk, chunk. The lights are going out. He says, young man, I'll do whatever I can to help put this to rest. But bringing up Frank Tillerson's name isn't going to help anything. He's dead, and the Lord has taken his revenge on him. As the last of the lights chunk down, we only have the exterior light shining through the door with you standing there with the priest. Molly, the lights chunk down, and you see at the back of this room, back where the kitchen is, a figure. He's got a hoodie up, wearing jeans. He's right there at the back door. As he pulls back the hoodie, you see a face completely devoid of skin. Nothing there but the raw sinew, muscle, oozing with blood and pus. Those eyes. You will never forget those eyes.
And I smile, and I like the duffel slides off of my shoulder, and I'm reaching down into it, and it drops to the floor, and I come up, whap, and I've got like a fireman's axe with and the handle has like 14 or 15 notches along the handle. And I say, Benny, whatever whammy you got, now's the time to use it.
All
And
right.
I start walking towards him.
You start heading towards him as the priest is like, what's going on here? And you see that figure there, Molly. He sort of opens his mouth and just as quiet as a whisper, child of a slut is just another slut. And he backs out of that doorway. And I'm going to close scene on you two and have a finish up scene for Arthur and Scott.
So I think as Scotty comes up to the van, I'm there. I'm going through equipment, and like Andy and Kyle are in the van. You just hear me saying, "No, seriously, Molly fucking Flynn. I told you this case was the real deal. This is going to be the thing that breaks us. Nothing could go wrong here. We've got this case in the bag. We're the only ones here. This is going to be amazing, guys."
And I'd probably come up saying like, "Hey, did you hear all the stuff when I was talking? I heard a couple of weird things, and then more people walked in. A few people I know. Do you know Ben and this lady Molly?"
Molly Flynn. Yeah, she's here. Scotty. She is the real deal. I don't know where she came from, but she just annihilates things out of the night, and she knows where the real monsters hide. This case is real. I knew you had a good nose on you, but this is a primo find.
Well, if she's the real deal, then maybe we shouldn't be so thrilled, because that means that there's something really awful going on.
There better be something
I
really awful, or else why do I have all these cameras?
Well, cup half full, but still. There's this girl that I was going to try to talk to, Shelley Ford. It's probably back in the role a little bit. She said that she had talked to, or Baptiste said that she had talked to, man, I can't remember any names tonight, to Trisha. And also, I found out that she came in, she told everybody that she saw this thing. They said they saw it in an alley. It happened a few blocks over by a Chinese laundromat, and she was pretty sure she was being chased by something. I don't know.
I
know
ran into.
I don't know if we want to check it out.
I actually ran into Shelley. I don't know. She was looking for her girlfriend. She seems to think it was the killer. Honestly, 50-50 is just her girlfriend got drunk and did something she was ashamed of, but she thinks there might be something in the area too. Yeah.
Why? What happened with the girlfriend?
Apparently she got called and said she got some sort of job here at the church at St. Evelyn's, and then Shelley never heard from her again.
She got a job? What, she got hired by the father?
Not the father, some woman, dark hair. I don't know. She didn't have a lot of description. She just got a quick message over the phone. Like I said, sort of sounds like her girlfriend's just stepping out on her, but that's something to keep an eye out for, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to close scene since we're a little after.
Yep.
So as we close scene, the camera pans up from the two of you talking. And it kind of pans over the top of the van. And we see the homeless heading back into the streets. And we see one young lady walking with a primly dressed, attractive woman who says, "No, I think you would be perfect for the job. I think that it will be great opportunity. Come on back with me and we'll talk about it." As the little girl says, young lady, probably 16, 17. "Wow, I really could use the help, just to get something where I could have a place off the street." We see that dark-haired lady taking her down an alley as she says, "Oh, don't worry, sweetie. You're right. These streets can be dangerous." And so we'll end our first session. real quick, I want to go over our end of session stuff so that we can get our XPs for that. We did not conclude our current mystery. Did we save someone from certain death? I don't think so yet. Did we learn something new and important about the world?
I think so.
I think so as well. So we can mark that one. Did we learn something new and important about one of the hunters? I feel like we did some of that too.
For sure.
Nice stuff y'all came out with. So there's 2 that we ended up getting, which will mean 1 XP. And I thought that was fun. Thank you guys for playing. What we'll do next time is we'll jump right. I think everybody's here again next time, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So we'll have nice cohesion, and we can just get right into this mystery. I think it's creepy. Has it been creepy for y'all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's neat. I like it.
Yep.
He wrote a really neat little game here. The little starter. Neat people. And we'll try and I'm optimistic we're going to get through the adventure, and then maybe at the end, if we have time next session, we'll do a little roses and thorns. I always like to get a little feedback if possible. So, gang, thank you so much for playing. Any comments you want to make before I pull us off the broadcast?
No. I had a really great time. Everybody's characters are great. I'm really looking forward to session 2. We can really crank it open.
Yeah, this was super fun. Thank you for running.
Yeah.
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 Wonderful. Well, I'm going to stop the broadcast here.